Hey guys, what's up? Sean here. That was an insane group stage. Holy shit. Probably the best group stage I have ever seen in all of esports. I'm not gonna lie. So many upsets, so many things that I think a lot of people didn't predict ended up happening. You know, we have so many minor region teams making the playoffs. All of the top seeds are EMEA teams. One NA team making playoffs. This is setting up for the best 2022. But first, let's get through this year. Let's get through this champions bracket. This is wild. This is such a good bracket. So as you can see on the screen right now, from top to bottom, the top side of the bracket, we have Ascend versus Team Secret, Team Liquid versus Cloud9 Blue. There's your only NA team. On the bottom side of the bracket, we have Gambit versus X10. We could have actually had the Masters Berlin rematch here, but Envy falls short to X10. Such an insane match that was. Fnatic versus Crew is the last match on the lower bracket. So the lower bracket could have been Fnatic versus Sentinels, Gambit versus Envy, but the NA teams just big chokes late in those games. But you have to give credit where credit is due. These minor regions have improved drastically throughout this year. This is the first global esport I think I've ever seen, and I'm so excited. Oh my god, the group stage was just crazy. It was crazy. I mean, look at some of these matches that went down, guys. Like, going back to the start of this tournament, these are the first matches. We have Vision Strikers versus Full Sense, Team Vikings versus Crazy Raccoon. Those were like the chalk games. You know, everyone expected these things to happen. And then after that, it just got wild. The Fnatic Cloud9 series 2-1. You know, Cloud9 could have easily won that series. That was such a good series. Gambit versus Team Secret. Again, Team Secret could have won that series. That was a wild series. Everyone thought Gambit was going to have a cakewalk through Group C. Sentinels versus Furia. This is when Dan and I casted. The tech delay at 12-9 on the third map, that took away from the discussion of how good this Furia team actually was. They took Sentinels to 3 maps, they came back to 12-9, and they got their momentum taken away by that tech pause. But still, holy shit, man. Team Liquid versus Crew, that was an unfortunate stomp, I guess. As well as when you look to the next day, the Envy versus X10 match, that was a stomp. But we all know what ends up happening in the rematch. You know, the Vision Strikers versus Fnatic series, so fucking close again, man. Like, I think if Fracture wasn't such an unknown for Vision Strikers going up against Fnatic, maybe they win that series. But you could tell, you know, Fnatic was just leaps and bounds ahead on Fracture. They're probably the best Fracture team in this tournament, but we don't know that for sure because we haven't seen a lot of teams bust it out yet. And they could get anti really hard. I mean, the next day, Gambit versus Vikings. This was a series where look at this lead that Vikings had on map 3, dude. This is insane. Gambit comes back, rallies 7 straight rounds to bring it to OT, and then wins both of the OT rounds. So they win 9 straight rounds to win this game 14-12. That's like the anti-Gambit right there. That's crazy. And Vikings doesn't end up advancing out of groups because of that loss. That's heartbreaking. The Liquid versus Sentinel series, this is one, again, Dan and I casted. I mean, if you look at this, 13-10, this is attack side of split. Liquid won 5 straight rounds on the attack side of split. And if you go back and watch these rounds, they could have gone either way. The scene is so close. It's so close. The next day, Ascend versus Keystars, we all know how that ended up. Fucking wild. Secret versus Crazy Raccoon. Unfortunate stomp, I guess. Crew versus Furia, banger, went 3 maps. Full Sense versus Cloud9, another snoozer, IMO. But Full Sense put up a good fight. Ascend versus Envy. Dude, oh my god. Ascend looked so good in that matchup. That was one that Dan and I casted, and the second map ended up being kind of close. Bind, yeah, here it is. Envy made a gnarly comeback here on this last half. But, I mean, this was such a one-sided game between the top teams that it was very exciting for me to see, you know, an EMEA team just dominate an NA team. I know it's kind of traitorous for me to say, but it's a lot of fun watching, you know, all these regions play up against each other in these matchups where we haven't seen them before. Jeez. So going back into this again, you know, We had where were we down here? We were somewhere down here, huh? Ascend versus Envy, yes. And then we had the blowout here. I believe this one. Yes, X10 blew Keystars out, and that was shocking to me. I think that was shocking to everyone. I think after that initial Ascend versus Keystars matchup, we all expected Keystars to win the X10 game because X10 just got blown up by Envy. It makes no sense. So X10 shocks everyone by even beating Keystars, and they get the rematch against Envy, and we all assume Envy's just gonna take care of business. That's it, it's over. And it looked like everything was kind of going according to plan, right? They're up 1 map to 0. They're up 5-0 on the attack side of Split, guys. They end up falling apart and losing 13-8 in this game. Like, that is insane. The storylines just write themselves at this tournament. It's actually mental. The last map, again, Envy, 9-3 lead. They fucking choked this lead. Like, what is this? This tournament just is the gift that keeps on giving. I can't even believe it. This was such a good group stage. The Cloud9 Blue Vision Strikers game. How did I even skip this? Anyway, as you can see, I clearly am obsessed with this group stage. Like, this is... I don't even know what to say. I can make a video based on this group stage alone and the quality of competition at this event and what it means for the future going forward. But we'll save that for later. We're just going to go right into the bracket. Oh my god, I'm so stoked on this tournament right now. Okay, let's get into the matchups. Let's just get into them. So Ascend versus Team Secret. That's our first quarterfinal here. And man, I think Ascend looked shaky in the beginning, right? I think a lot of people questioned how they came out the gate. This is definitely an interesting matchup when you look at the past performances of these teams, right? You look at Ascend in this Keystars matchup, they looked very shaky. But then you look at what ended up happening to Keystars, and you have to question, how much anti-shrouding was involved in there, and how much was Ascend just not ready for that particular opponent? We don't know. We really don't know, right? They've only played 2 opponents because they got the high seed. They looked incredibly strong against Envy, though. Very different styles, and I would actually say Team Secret's style is closer, to something like Envy's. I think this is a pretty good matchup for Ascend, but that doesn't mean that it's an easy matchup. Let's look at some of the stats here from this event, and yeah, you can see Durka is just at the top of the scoreboard. He's way on top with ACS. And that's shocking because a lot of people questioned whether Fnatic had the worst duelists in the group of death. And Durka came out and silenced that massively. You don't hear that narrative anymore. It was a huge group stage performance by him, especially on Fracture. His raise on Fracture was insane. I kind of want to look a little bit into the map pools of these teams. This is going to end up being such a long video. Yeah, so... looking at the vetoes for both of these teams, you can see Ascend actually will typically ban Haven, whereas in both of the series so far, we actually had Team Secret picking Haven. So that is a huge weakness for Team Secret in this matchup, right? They're losing their pick because the other team bans that. Now, I will say Team Secret has banned Bind once, and that will surely be what they do in this series against Ascend. So Ascend loses their kind of go-to pick in Bind, where they get free wins, and so does Team Secret with Haven. So I think both of these teams are in a little bit of a weird scenario in this matchup where they're going to be playing the middle of their map pool. And in a matchup like that, I tend to favor the more experienced team because they'll have a deeper playbook. And just for that reason alone, I'm going to go Ascend here. I think the skill from Team Secret could definitely catch them off guard. I thought I saw some really good plays from Dubstep, getting involved in the early openings, getting the first bloods for his team. I think that they'll have that success against Ascend, but I think the layers of strategy from Ascend, particularly what we saw against Envy, right? Their early round setups leading into their mid round setups, leading into their late round setups with post-plant utility. They have plans at every stage of the round So if Team Secret wins this game, it's going to be on the back of huge individual performances. And I don't see that happening here in the quarterfinals. So I'm going to go Ascend. This next matchup is the one that Dan and I are doing. I don't want to go... I'm going to go blind to NA Faith here and pick Cloud9 Blue because I was super impressed with how they stepped up against Vision Strikers. I think there's a lot of footage so far on Liquid, and they can be beat. Both of these teams are LCQ teams from the regions. Cloud9 won LCQ in NA, Team Liquid won LCQ in EU, and they're probably some of the hottest teams in this tournament right now when you look at their past results, right? So when we go here, let's see. So we go into this matchup right here. Let's just go into the matchup. So look at the form from both of these teams. I mean, they're pretty red hot. Like, this is about as hot as you can get at a big tournament. Their only losses to Fnatic, we talked about how that was a close series. But Cloud9 are grinders. If you look at the series they play, they almost all go the distance. You know, like, there's so many series where they drop a map and they're tested, they bend, but they don't break. This is a special type of team in NA. This is a very special team. Meanwhile, you look at Liquid, dude, Jesus, this is just, it looks really nice, right? It's, I mean, going back to this point, look at this. This is so long ago. This is all the way back in August. And then since then, you know, they had that couple month break. They bring in Navera, Guild, G2, Guild, Footballist, Big, G2, Fnatic, 10-star, Ascend, Crew, Sentinels. Like, these guys are playing some savages, and they just beat them all. They just beat them all. And the Sentinel series. Guys, this is a series where Scream started this Breeze game 0-11. He started this game 0-11 on Jet. 0-9 in opening duels, and Liquid still won this game. That's actually mental. That's mental that this happened. You know, he ended up top fragging the last map. The resilience on this team. I didn't think Liquid would be able to win a game like this. I thought they were structured in such a way where if Scream didn't show up, that was it. It was over. You know, like, these other players just would not come up big, and they would crumble. This kind of makes me think Liquid is a contender to win this tournament. So I'm gonna say this about the bracket. I actually believe that whoever wins this matchup has a very, very good shot at running the bracket and winning this tournament. But I'm gonna go with Cloud9 Blue just because I'm from NA. I'm gonna root for this. I think the composition of their team is so unique in the playoffs right now because their Opper, a lot like Liquid actually with Yampi and some of their comps, their Opper is often not on this duelist role. It's like Mitch on Sentinel roles, which is very unique, and I think it's throwing a lot of teams off that Cloud9 has these aggressive riflers that are trading so well on the executes and in the center of the map on defaults, right? Leaf, Zeppa, Zeta, they're coming up massive in these rounds, time and time again, and I don't think that's going to change against Liquid, but it's going to be a slugfest, and I think Liquid has a lot of edges when it comes to the map pool, but I gotta root for the NA team. Alright, so then we have Ascend versus Cloud9 Blue. I think I would take Cloud9 Blue as far as skill goes in this matchup, and I would take Ascend strategically in this matchup. And this is so wild, man. This is so wild. Like the CNED factor on Jet versus like a non-opping Jet on Cloud9 Blue. I really don't know how this is going to go. And I think if you look at EME alone, I'm going to go with Cloud9 Blue, right? Just because of the fact that Ascend hasn't proven to me that they can win on the big stage in the big moment. That's why I'm going Cloud9 Blue here. Bottom part of the bracket, Gambit versus X10. Holy shit, dude. Gambit has looked really shaky so far this event. And X10 has had their ups and downs, you know, like, but Gambit is a team so far from what I've seen where, you know, they look like they haven't changed much, but what they are doing is very strategically solid. Like, they're not busting out very unique, like a lot of unique gimmick plays like we're seeing out of a lot of the other teams, i.e. your Fnatics, your Ascends, you know, different looks, like busting out KOs and Fracture and things like that. Gambit's is kind of sticking to their tried and true comps, and it's squeaking them through. I'm not sure if they have more up their sleeves. What they could be doing coming into playoffs is, you know, researching what they're seeing around the tournament and incorporating that into their game. If they're doing that, I expect Gambit to make the run through this bracket, right? If they add those trap plays into their game, in addition to what they had in group stage, I think we see them in the finals again. On X10 side, you know, like, I don't know, I just can't go with a team that we've seen that inconsistency out of, right? The way we saw them look against Envy in that opening matchup, they looked very flat. And personally, I think Envy should have beat them in the rematch. That was more... Holy shit, man. Envy crumbled big time. That round they were running up sewer and FNS ulted in the middle of the open in the lead. And then they got triple killed. That was the game changer. You know, like, that's a big moment, a big pressure moment where Envy came up short. I don't think Gambit does that here. That was something that would happen to Gambit in the past, but it seems like they've exercised those demons, right? That comeback against Vikings, the way they won in Berlin, I don't think this is the same Gambit that we saw in the past. And because of that, I'm picking them. They look like a really, really solid team. Fnatic versus Crew. Now, this is another one of those interesting games because, you know, like, you would imagine Sentinels being in this matchup and it being a total slugfest, and people might think, you know, they might think this will be easy for Fnatic. But Fnatic has those same demons that Gambit has exercised. It's like they've gone from Gambit over to Fnatic. We saw it back actually in Iceland in the finals, right? They collapsed in those finals against Sentinels. They could have won any of those games. Even in their opening matchup against Sentinels where they lost 2-0, you know, those are nail-biting games that went down to the wire. I think there's a chance Fnatic looks flat in this matchup. There's a chance, right? But, man, am I going to bet on that chance? And also the fact that Fnatic has shown that their map pool is so deep, they can play Fracture really, really well. Now, Crew has also shown they can play Fracture, right? They played a really good game here against Furia. I was super impressed. And I think Kesnet and Nags have had an incredible group stage. Even Delzik, you know, statistically here on this stat page, he's not at the top, obviously, but he's playing this controller role, and I think he's done a really, really good job. But I see a looseness when I watch Crew, with the exception of this Fracture game, where they have a lot of high-paced, you know, in-your-face type of tactics. I think the structure on Fnatic is going to bog them down. A lot like how we saw Fnatic get a lot of utility kills in their early Fracture games against Vision Strikers and Cloud9 Blue. I think Crew is going to get caught off guard by a lot of these synergized plays Fnatic has. I'm talking like Gravity Wells into Durka double satchelating right in front of their faces into... I saw a play against Vision Strikers on Fracture where there was a Viper Molly on one side of tower. There was a Gravity Well in the middle. There was paint shells coming into tower as well. And Durka was double satchelating in. And King was just cooked in there. He was just so dead, right? Now, King could not have been prepared for that. There's no way he could have been prepared for that because there's no footage. So maybe Crew could be prepared because of the fact that there is footage now. But Fnatic has had a lot of days to prepare. I think with that preparation on this style of team, it's... Fnatic couldn't have asked for a better scenario than this scenario right here. And because of that, I'm picking Fnatic. That gives us the rematch in the lower bracket. Gambit versus Fnatic. I'm sorry, not a rematch, but just the EMEA quarter or semifinal between Fnatic and Gambit. And Jesus, this is a super hard match to predict. Dude, this is one of those ones where I feel like Fnatic will do a good job of taking Nats out of the game. They should have a lot of experience playing against Gambit, whether that be scrims or matches, because they're both from the EMEA region. It's a tricky matchup to predict. I think Fnatic has been boot camping a lot, and they're very positive about the results, whereas Gambit has been boot camping, and from their coach's perspective, you know, like they could have done better as far as their preparation goes. I'm going to give the edge to Fnatic because we've seen them on Fracture, and I think that that is a big, big positive in this bracket right now, that you can control the veto with a Fracture that people are scared of. That's a massive edge. The duelists have also looked better on Fnatic. The calling has looked better on Fnatic. Everything in my mind says to go with Fnatic, other than the fact that this is a semifinal. Gambit's been here before. They've shown that they won't crumble at this tournament, whereas Fnatic still worries me a bit in that regard. I know they went to the finals in Iceland. I'm gonna go Fnatic, dude. I think the Group D rematch in the finals. Holy shit, how did we end up here? The Group of Death rematch in the finals. Look at this shit. Holy cow. Fnatic versus Cloud9 Blue in the finals. And I'm going to be a little traitor. I'm going to say Fnatic is going to win again. Even though Cloud9 Blue could have won that opening group stage game, I think Fnatic looked so good. There's something about rooting for Boaster too, man. I love the guy. I love the guy. And I think there's no losing here. Like, I don't mind if any of these teams wins this bracket. I think we're in store for an awesome playoffs for the next few days, and damn am I excited. Holy cow. Guys, this is like the best tournament I have ever seen. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm curious where you guys are at in the pick'em. For those of you that are wondering, I'm way the hell down here, 110 points. You know, there's some of you savants up here, 5 of you actually, with 190 points. If you are one of those 5 users, you know, let me know. I'm super curious. So be sure to leave a comment. Let me know if you're, you know, Rain Man or some shit, predicting to the future. So let me know who you guys think is gonna win it. Sorry this video ran long, but I'm just so excited. Anyway, peace out, guys. Looking forward to see you guys on the cast. Talk to you guys soon.